Okay, we are live, and Senate Transportation Committee will continue our discussion this morning. And our next item on the agenda is Policy Planning and Research Budget. Joe Segali is with us, I believe. I think
Yes.
there he is. Okay, good morning, Joe. How are you?
Good morning, everybody. I'm great. Thanks.
Okay, go right ahead. It's all yours.
Okay. Just going to share my screen.
Sure.
Okay, can you all see that okay?
Yes, we can.
All right.
Yeah.
For the record, I'm Joe Segali, the Director of Policy Planning and Research at Vermont Agency of Transportation, here to talk about the policy and planning budget for 2023. I'm going to start just with an overview of the organization of, or the staff that are included in the policy and planning budget. So it actually includes the administration for the whole policy planning and intermodal development division. So Michelle Boomhauer is the division director. So it includes her and then the staff that she directs directly, Trini Broussard, Michael Wachowski, and Karen Smith, who's our new administrative assistant. It also includes the public outreach section. There's 2 staff there, and they do, communications and assistance with projects. And then most of the staff are in the bureau that I manage, which is the Policy Planning and Research Bureau. And I'll talk about each of these in a little bit more, but detail in a second. There's 31 full-time equivalents. And what I wanted to highlight, though, is we've done a little bit of reorganization. We've created this environmental policy development and implementation unit. It used to be that there was one person in this job right here. That was Dan Dutcher, who retired in December. And we moved a couple positions. These aren't
Dan retired?
He did, yes.
Oh my goodness, we're going to miss his testimony because he always had it so formal that built on his prior testimony. So he retired.
Oh, been around a long time.
Yeah, he was great, but he was ready. It was just like his life situation. He was ready to retire. And there's actually been quite a few retirements in the bureau, and things have moved around. And these 2 positions here came out of the permitting services unit. They were both retirements, and we have a lot of demand now in the environmental area, particularly in the implementation of all these incentive programs. And Dan was trying to both, run these incentive programs, but do all sorts of policy analysis and everything else. And it was a little bit overwhelming. And so we moved these positions over, and we hired Patrick Murphy, who he's testified to you guys a bunch of times now. And he's doing the day-to-day management of these programs, and he's doing a terrific job. And then we have a vacant position here that we're going to start the hiring process for, another policy analyst. But, this is where there's been just a ton of work, and we just needed some more people focused on it. And I'm not expecting, these positions, they retired out of the permitting, but it happened kind of slowly. We were able to sort of monitor what the impact of that is or was, particularly over the pandemic. We weren't able to fill positions for quite a while. And the permitting services unit, they're still doing great. They're cranking out the permits like they always did. So this is just a reshuffling of positions without any new positions at the moment. So I'm going to talk a little bit about each of these sections and what they do before I show you the numbers. So there's the administration, which is Michelle, and you're very familiar with all the work that she does. There's the policy and planning section, and that includes myself as well as Costa and Amy Bell. And we do legislative studies. We're working on the equity framework, the road usage charge work, which I presented on, a couple of weeks ago to the committee. There's with the new infrastructure bill, there's a program being created for resilience. So that's money to be spent on flood improvements and hardening infrastructure. But they provide an option for a resilience plan. And if we do this plan, it'll reduce the state match that we have to provide for those capital funds. So there's value in doing that. The Better Connections Grant Program is another program that we run. And right now we have active projects in Bethel, Pulteney, and Lyndonville. We're doing that on a 2-year cycle now. We needed to kind of spread it out because it was consuming lots of time. We do a lot of, I guess I call it hand-holding with the communities as they're going through these processes and making sure that they're connected with state agency resources while they're doing their planning. The Lamoille Valley Rail Trail Management Plan is another example of something that we're working on. And again, the infrastructure bill is going to have something like 26 new discretionary grant programs. And the policy planning often will help draft and the grant applications and putting all that together. And those usually have to happen in pretty quick turnaround time. So we're expecting a lot more work there. We're doing corridor plans, Route 4, Hartford to Woodstock. We're starting one in US 7, Milton to Georgia. And we're going to be starting one soon and on Route 2, Montpelier to Waterbury. And that all feeds into asset management. And we do outreach and make sure that we're getting what the communities have on their minds so that we know that ahead of time and can feed that into our process. And of course, the federal, monitoring the federal laws and participating in different national organizations. As I mentioned, there's this environmental policy development and implementation unit, which we're developing now. And Andrea Wright replaced Dan Dutcher. And you probably know Andrea. She's been with the agency for over 20 years. She was running the environmental permitting section and the right-of-way section. And she was ready for a change. And so she came over and joined us. And I've kind of already talked about what they do, and you're really familiar with them. Then public outreach is Amy Tatko, and she does the fact book and social media and media outreach and things like that. There's also the Transportation Planning Initiative, which is the funding that we provide to the planning commissions. And it's also the coordination with the NPO, and the NPO's money flows through this program to the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission, is the Metropolitan Planning Organization, and they get designated federal funding. And I know you're all familiar with the regional planning commissions and the great work that they do. So that's been going on for more than 25 years now. And it's a really key component to the transportation work that we do. The most important thing I think they do is the prioritization of the projects, and they've been involved with the new project prioritization process and getting that off the ground. There's the mapping section, which is Jonathan Croft is the chief of that, and he does great work. He maintains the spatial data on our roadway system and other transportation assets, as well as does the annual highway mileage. That is the basis for the funding that goes to municipalities. And then there's the research section, which is led by Emily Parchini, and there's just 2 of them, but they do an amazing amount of work. And we work a lot with University of Vermont and other institutions and consultants and getting projects done. And then there's the permitting section, which is our section 1111, the highway access permits in Act 250. And they generally do the highway access permits, about 500 permits a year. And so that they're continuing strong. And it's also our review of other development permits through Act 250. So that's the laundry list of all the things that we do. This is the proposed budget for 2023. It's an increase of about 15%. That compares to the overall agency budget increase in the neighborhood of 20% or 21%. There is an error here. There was too much money put in the grant line item that should have been up in personal services. The grants line item includes the money, again, that's passed through to Chittenden County, as well as the TPI program and the Better Connections grant. So there was about $1 million here that should have been up in personal services. And that money is really the additional money that's coming from the new infrastructure bill. And, it's going to pay for a lot of things that I just mentioned. And then you can see the source of state funds. So, or the source of funds, state, federal, and interdepartmental transfers. And this mix doesn't change that much, even when I move, some of the money around and up here. It's the same basic mix of funding sources. Um,
Mr.
yes,
Go ahead.
Joe, can you just, I'm sorry if I missed this, but the operating expenses are your expenses to grant out the money. So the 23 budget of 7.3 million in grants, the 1 million of operating is kind of your costs to just operate those grant programs, to grant out that money.
no.
No.
So that 1 million I said that was incorrectly put in this line item here is going to move up to personal services, and personal services includes our labor costs, but also the professional services that we procure. And really it's our labor costs that are managing the grants.
That's part of, so what's operating? What's that?
Operating are things like the office cost, computers.
Like the indirect cost?
Pardon me?
Like indirect or overhead, some people might call it.
Yeah, some people might call it that, but it's it's definitely this. There's lots of line items under operating, but it's generally those. Yeah, it's overhead is a good way to think about it.
But no labor. That's all in personal.
Right, and I mean, I guess also overhead often will include things like benefits, and benefits are included in personal services. So the overhead rate is the specific items that are covered by overhead are distributed between these two line items.
Sure, Miles.
Yes, go right ahead.
Senator Purcell, going to interrupt. Were you?
Yep, right ahead. Yep.
So Joe, I think you've spoken to this and it's just come up a few times, but can you tell me how your office does or has in the past or might in the future work better or more with the University of Vermont transportation research area? Are there opportunities that you could see sharing some and spreading some of this overhead, or is that at all on your radar?
Yeah, I don't see us spreading the overhead to the University of Vermont. I mean, those are just costs that, those are the everyday boring costs that we have to pay for just to kind of stay in business. But we do work with the University of Vermont a lot in our research program. Its research program is, UVM sort of had a exclusive use of our research program. We didn't used to allow other universities or consultants to bid on research projects, and that was a intentional decision that was made a while ago. I think when the University Transportation Center was established, and it was really to try to help them get off the ground. And Federal Highway Administration was okay with us doing that until the last couple of years, and the thought was UVM's really got their transportation research program in a really good place now, and so we've opened up the research funds to whoever wants to propose on them, and we have an open solicitation process to get people on a pre-qualified list. And UVM is on that list, as well as like University of New Hampshire and UMass, and there's a couple of consultants, and that'll get renewed every year. And UVM is always going to be hard to beat when it comes to putting project proposals together for research. The other project that we've been working with UVM on a regular basis is we have a travel model, a statewide travel model, which is a computer model that estimates travel flows. And if we build a road, it tells us what the impact of that will be, and we use it in a lot of different ways. And so that's been an ongoing contract that we have with UVM for, I think it's been at least 15 years. We used to do that in-house, but it just made more sense for them to do it. I will say that we're going to have to put that out to bid, those services for the model also in the next year or so, again, because of procurement requirements. But I think UVM is in a really good place as far as competing for those services.
One quick follow-up.
Go ahead.
So as you all might know, I work at UVM and I'm in the building right next to engineering. And so I run into Dr. I always mispronounce his name, so I won't say it. But yeah, he's just very eager and always looking for ways to make sure that UVM is meeting the needs of V-Trans. So I just hope that that's come across in all your interactions.
Yes, Greg, right? Yeah, we check with them often, and he comes up with proposals. He's doing a great job, and I think he's a great resource for UVM, and I think he's a great resource for us as well. And I believe they're also doing some work for the Climate Council and helping out with some of the quantitative analyses that are, that are necessary for all of that. Any more questions about this slide?
No, I don't hear any, don't see any. Okay, just committee, just jump in because I can't see all of you, so.
So this is my last slide, and it just shows how that $13 million is spread out to the different units I just described, the different sections. And you'll see a big chunk of it, 27 plus 16 is 43%, goes to the Metropolitan Planning Organization in Chittenden County and the RPCs. So, it's not quite half the budget, but it's a significant portion of it. And then the rest of it is spread out to the different units based on the staff that are there and the work that gets done there. And about 5% is the administrative cost. So that's my overview. Glad to answer any more questions.
Any questions, comments? Anything else? Chittenden County was mentioned a couple times. I thought someone would react from the outside of Chittenden County here, but I didn't hear any comments.
I don't know what to say to that, sir.
We're used to them getting all the money, so.
Oh, I knew something, but I knew they were thinking about something. I didn't, they weren't just jumping in, that's all.
Well, Senator Perchlak, at least it isn't a bridge, right, with a fancy lift on it.
Well, we're gonna check your baby program. Okay, well, I guess that's all we have, but thank you very much, Joe.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Yep, thank you.
Okay,
So long.
okay. Jeannie, if we can jump on to the other one at 11, we're close enough. Are they in the room with us?
They are.
Okay, we can move right on to them, and because some of us got some noon meetings, so.
Good afternoon, Senator Mazza and committee. My name is Jana Morse, and I'm the Director of Finance and Administration.
Okay. Welcome.
I am prepared to share my screen if
Sure.
you would allow me that permission, Jeannie.
Go right ahead. Yeah.
Do I have documents from you?
You do.
Then they should be up.
It's up on the website.
I'm not seeing that it's allowed me permission to share.
I've made you co-host, so you should be able to share.
Okay, I'll try that one more time.
There we go.
How is that? Fantastic.
There we go. We got it.
All right. Is that zoomed in well enough for everybody?
Yeah, looks good to me.
Fantastic. Thank you. So again, for the record, my name is Jana Morse. I'm the Director of Finance and Administration for the Agency of Transportation. And I have with me today our Chief Financial Officer, Bradley Kuchenberger, and our Facilities and Logistics Manager, Brad McAvoy. So this is my first time presenting to you in my current role. I've formerly worked for Director Gamble as the Chief of Performance, and I believe I had a short presentation with you last year. So I'm really excited to be here today and have this opportunity. So thank you. So Finance and Administration, familiarly known as F&A, our governor's recommended budget includes a total of $19.8 million, which is in this third column here. Funded through approximately $18.5 million in transportation fund and $1.3 million in federal funds. This is a total of 3.7 million approximately, or 22% increase over fiscal 22 that we're proposing for fiscal 23. And that includes an additional approximately $900,000 for salaries and benefits, which as contractually required increases for wage and workers' comp benefits, healthcare premiums and things like that. We're also looking at a $2 million investment in the initiation of the replacement of our 30-year-old mainframe system. This project is part of our statewide ERP system replacement, which is being led by the Agency of Digital Services and Finance and Management. And lastly, we have submitted and we're working with DHR Human Resources to secure 10 additional positions to support the work that Finance and Administration is doing on behalf with the new Infrastructure Improvement and Jobs Act. So we've included approximately $660,000 for those additional positions. Other than that, our only really other notable item between fiscal 23 and fiscal 22 was our custodial and rubbish service removal. We had a significant drop in in-person work during the pandemic, and we're starting to see a reintegration of staff into our facilities at a much higher rate. So we've had an increase in services for those two things. But as I'm sure many of you have heard before, approximately 90% of our budget is fixed costs, and we have very little transition in our budget there. So that's all I have to share about our budget overview, and I'd be happy to answer any questions before moving to transportation buildings.
Any questions, comments? Okay, I guess you can move the other one. Yep.
Okay. So for transportation buildings, there's our cover sheet. I'll bring Brad McAvoy in to speak primarily. The overview that I have to share before turning it over to Brad is we're looking for fiscal 2023 at just over a 6% increase for statewide heating projects for investments that we will determine through a prioritization process in the coming months, and approximately a 3% increase in statewide generators. That's just our general cost of living increase there. And $1.2 million for the replacement of 2 salt sheds. And from here, I'll turn it over to Brad to discuss the specifics of what we're planning.
Thank you.
Good morning, committee. For those who haven't met me, my name is Brad McAvoy. I've been with the state for 30 years now, about a half split between BGS and AOT in a facilities role that whole time. So I'm familiar with kind of both ends of that. For this year's budget, if you can go next slide, Jana. We have money included in there to construct a new 5-bay maintenance facility in Lunenburg. Currently, the garage is way undersized. The upper lot there, if you can see the green roofed area, that's actually was a cold storage shed that we converted to heated space to house the trucks. But they both lived their life. It's time to build a new facility there, get them more up to speed, a more modern building. This building will be constructed using heat pumps technology for heat. We'll also be putting LED lighting. There is solar on site to offset some of that cost. That facility will house 4 trucks. The loader and baby dump will be housed in the lower garage, kind of where that red location is. This project's been in the queue for many years. Funding's been pulled back and forth, so they'll be happy to get that facility constructed.
Brad, how many of all our garages all over the state, how are we doing? Are we getting near updating them all? I know we had some real bad ones over the years.
There's a few left. Senator Mazza, Bloomfield is one that's very old. There's a few others that are in the queue, but overall, I would say we're in pretty good shape comparatively. In the last 10 years, we've constructed several new garages to get rid of the older style that may have been the old pole shed type buildings, and modernize a lot of the garages to, radiant heat floors and that type of thing. So we're in pretty good shape.
Brad,
Sure.
You said heat pump technology. Is it air to air, or are you doing a ground source there?
We're looking to do ground at this facility and trying to size it and at least get the piping in for a future outdoor wood boiler for backup heat.
And are you going to do radiant floor with that ground source heat pump?
Yes, that's the plan. This will be our first large facility where we're going to do the initial design using that. We did just complete a project in Tunbridge where we removed a hot air oil fired ceiling mounted furnace and replaced that with heat pumps. And that just finished last month. It was a very successful project. The people that work in that facility are happy with the results overall.
Heated floors are a good deal. Those heated floors work well. Yeah.
It helps with the melt off of the vehicles and keeps the floors dry. And
we were talking about that earlier. Yep. Okay, go ahead. Yep.
Next slide.
Was the Tunbridge project a ground source as well?
Those are not. Those are a ducted system, air to air. Those in Tunbridge, Center Perchlick were, I believe, a 3.5 ton unit, capable down to 18 below. And we actually had one of our staff go there today. He just wanted to see. This is one of the coldest mornings, and we had no issues with the heat there. So that was good to see.
Wow, those buildings are all there. Whoa.
So these are two of the older salt sheds that we still have. As you can see, the Quonset hut roofs are kind of rusting out. A lot of the concrete is cracked. We have rebar exposed. This was before the age of epoxy coated rebar, so those are starting to rust, and we're just looking to replace in the same location with roughly the same size to keep the same capacity. But those are in Eden and North Hero, and those are budgeted for $500,000 to $600,000 each for that for FY23. We have 2 other sites we're looking to do for next fiscal year. And that's the majority of the money for transportation buildings. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Yes, Senator Perchlick.
Can you explain the statewide heating? What that line is?
The line item for that is something we carry each year. That's for systems that, like right now in the winter, we've had just today several no heat calls. So if we have a furnace where we lose a coil or something like that, where we have to put either replacement or add quite a bit of money to, that's not really a planned item out of our major maintenance, that's where that money would be directed.
And do you do, like, I know the folks that we have on institutions are familiar with the statewide system of the asset management system, I think it is. Do you have all the heating systems in a similar type asset management program?
So I believe you're referring to the VAMIS project, the asset management system that AOT is working. Yeah. Facilities is a module in that, and we're still, I think, 1 module away from that being taken in. But yes, that we will be in that system within the next 6 to 8 months. All of our facility assets, ages of roofs, construction types, heating systems, all of that will be captured in that system.
All right, thank you.
When you build a salt shed, you build it out of metal. Doesn't that eat the metal up, or how does that work?
Actually, the ones that are there, Senator Mazza, are ones that we're replacing. Currently, they're concrete with a wood structure on top and a pitched roof.
Yeah, that's right. So, I didn't realize. I thought the new ones were different because the salt would eat that up pretty fast. Yeah.
Yeah. The new ones are different construction.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. All set.
Jana, you have something further?
Looking for my unmute button. Thank you for the opportunity to present today. And Senator Perchlick, it looks like you might have another question.
Yeah, Senator Perchlick, go ahead.
Transportation buildings, do those not include the airport buildings? Because I thought I remembered there were some airport buildings, but is that separate?
The funding for this program is through F&A, a separate line item. The building like the Rutland SRE that is now ready for bidding at BGS, that's a separate funding source, not part of the transportation appropriation. It's through the P-paid policy and planning budget.
So what about the building is that for all airport buildings? There is a new snow removal equipment building being built, I think, in Clarendon, but I can't remember which airport. Maybe it was a different airport, but
No.
that's not in your, that's a transportation building, but it's not in your budget.
Correct. I'm overseeing the project, but it's a different funding source than the transportation buildings.
But it's part of AOT's overall budget.
Correct. I do work at all the airports, DMV, rail. Some of the budgets are captured in different locations, but the program is all managed through the facility section.
And that's you're the facility section.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, the Clarendon SRE is actually at BGS. We should have it posted for bid next week.
Okay. Thank
Senator
you.
Perchlik, if I may add a little more to what Brad's shared, we're looking at a long-term collaboration and consolidation of how we manage our transportation buildings across our enterprise. So that includes rail and aviation, maintenance, highways, anywhere else in P-paid or any of our finance and administration buildings, particularly the Dill building and the Dewey building where some of our staff are housed. Excuse me, not Dewey, Berry City Place. So Brad oversees all of the facilities management for those locations. And we also collaborate with DMV on any of the leased facilities that they occupy through buildings and general services to ensure that any maintenance activities occur and that our leases are up to date. And over the next couple of years, we'll be looking at wrapping in some additional projects across the enterprise into transportation buildings where the funding stream allows us to do so. Otherwise, those projects will still remain within the budgets and the funding streams that they're authorized within and simply be managed by our facilities and logistics team and finance and administration.
Okay. Sounds like a good plan.
Thank you.
Well, that's good. Well, for keeping up, that's great. Yeah. Any other questions, comments?
Really quick, I heard you just refer to the Dewey building and so on. What is does V-Trans have a standing policy for naming? Because I've got a couple of senators I'd love to have a building named after.
Here we go.
So we actually have moved out of the Dewey building. That was a misspeak on my part. My office used to be in the Dewey building and I'm now down at Berry City Place. So I'm not sure how the facilities are named. Probably Brad could speak a little bit more to that.
How about bridges? Yeah, you guys got anything to do with naming bridges?
Oh, that's definitely a director Gamble or chief engineer.
Okay.
Question.
Okay. Well, we just want a simple little statue and a Roman-like toga, you know, carrying a sword or something.
Why would you do that to Gene Kitchell anyway? Why would you do that?
You know, we don't name it. That's been a bone of topic of discussion in terms of what get named and who gets named. And
Well,
so
you got a Smith Bridge up in your way. Did we name something? Vince put it through, or who was it?
Yeah, Curran Smith Bridge.
Curran Smith. The Curran Smith Bridge. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think it probably went through, did it go through libraries? So we have a separate
No, they
process for naming.
don't do that anymore. We questioned that, but they don't do that anymore. So you can put it into legislation now, and that's.
Well, I probably could have an outhouse name for me. So maybe on the Lamoille Rail Trail.
No, we're going to name all the coal facilities.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions from the folks this morning? Senator Perchlik, go right ahead.
No, I'm good. I was
Oh,
talking
okay.
to somebody else.
Thought you were waving to us. Okay. Anybody else? Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. And if we need any other further information, we'll get back to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I guess that completes our morning. Jeannie, why don't we go offline and the committee